Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us tonight. We are honored to have Hratch Kozibeyokian with us, who will be talking to us about carpets from Artsakh and their history. This is part of one of our cultural series of events, Arts from Artsakh. We're honored to have Hratch with us, who's joining us from LA. Hratch was born in Aleppo, Syria, and raised in Lebanon in a family with a rich tradition of weaving craftsmanship. He emigrated to the United States in 1977 to join his father. While in Chicago, he worked with two Oriental rug companies as a restoration specialist, Klujan Rug Company and Michael Isparian at Beloyan Oriental Rug Company. In 1979, he settled in Los Angeles and earned a BA in cultural anthropology from the Chapman College. In 1990, he and his wife established KOZ Craft, a workshop studio to restore and conserve hand-woven antique textiles and carpets. He works as a consultant for private collectors, dealers, and interior decorators in the trade, and also provides professional appraisal certificates. In 1992, they inaugurated an exhibit gallery in West Hollywood's Design District. Hratch also holds an extensive collection of historic Armenian and Caucasian hand-woven rugs and textiles. He often travels to curate, exhibit, and lecture on various subjects related to hand-woven textile arts. Hratch became the first lecturer on contribution of Armenian rugs in world culture within the Armenian Studies program at the California State University in Northridge. He has lectured in schools, museums, cultural societies, and groups of art connoisseurs, notably at the White House Visitors Center in 2014 and the Smithsonian Museum in 2016. He has published numerous papers in various publications and spoken at symposiums and conferences. In 1998, Hratch joined the Armenian Rug Society and has served on its board since. In 2015, he was elected as president, and he holds the Best Oriental Rug Restorer in Los Angeles award. Welcome, Hratch.
Thank you, Tatiana, for a beautiful presentation and introduction, and thank you for the invite. It's an honor to be invited from your institute, and it's my pleasure to share my limited knowledge, I should say, about the subject. Now, going to the recent developments, what happened to the Armenian weaving tradition and what is currently still happening as we speak in Armenia. As we all know, that the last 44-day war, the devastation that the Armenian people went through in Artsakh, from which they had to move everything to Yerevan. Well, that wasn't only enough. Now, Azerbaijan is working very hard to appropriate all the cultural monuments. And let's define what are the cultural monuments and what are their significance. Historically, Nakhichevan used to be an Armenian part of historic Armenia also. And what happened in Nakhichevan is happening in Artsakh, what also is known as the Nagorno-Karabakh. The cultural monuments, such as the khachkars in Armenian cemeteries, over 10,000 khachkars that were there for centuries, over 600-700 years, has been demolished, completely annihilated, and the place has been turned into a shooting range. Churches were destroyed, monasteries were completely destroyed, and there was not a single sign of the Armenian people's memory there, okay? Now, what are the political and ideological motivations of doing so? They are basically erasing the identity, which is the elimination of cultural symbols to weaken the Armenian identity. Second, they are asserting dominance by demonstrating power over conquered population. And third, ethnic or religious conflict. They are specifically targeting monuments due to the tensions. The physical impact is the psychological warfare by inducing fear and despair. They're intimidating by suppressing resistance and ensuring compliance. By doing so, they are misappropriating and they are owning by rewriting the history, altering narratives to fit their claims, and cultural theft eventually, pillaging artifacts for financial or cultural gain. Historical examples are from the Ottoman Empire. I mean, this is not, didn't start here. It goes back, this cultural appropriation, to centuries, and they are using the model of what Turkey did. In Ottoman Empire, there was the conversion of Hagia Sophia in 1453, the damage to Ani Cathedral, destruction, conversion of Armenian churches in Anatolia, and Azerbaijan is doing identical the same thing: destruction of Armenian Khachkars in Julfa, erasure of Armenian cultural presence in Nakhichevan. The consequences are the loss of continuity, eradication of tangible history, psychological impact that causes trauma and displacement of communities, intellectual and creative impoverishment, economic impact, which is decline in tourism and financial setbacks, the global fallout, strained diplomacy and loss to shared heritage. And the long-term effects are hindering obstacles to reconciliation, hindering healing process, barriers to peace, prolonging animosities and cultural gaps. Now, preservation efforts, the importance of it, important of UNESCO and international cooperation, role of preservation in fostering understanding and reconciliation. In conclusion, we call to action safeguarding cultural monuments as a shared human responsibility, emphasis on cultural heritage and foundation of identity and peace. Now, in this first slide, you see a piece, a fragment of Armenian dragon carpet, which was very famous in medieval times, from all the way from 14th, 15th century to 16th and 17th century. Many museums, world-known museums, have samples of the dragon carpets. This piece is a fragment from my own collection that was very prominent. There was a time when these rugs were titled as Armenians, but now their narrative have been changed and their attributions are Azerbaijan. Next slide, please. In here, we see the map showing the historic carpet weaving regions from Armenia. There are over 20 major regions where Armenians were weaving distinct carpet styles, distinct carpet patterns, but they all would share the same belief system. In other words, the pattern on each rug is displayed slightly different, similar to spoken dialect. For example, one of the main iconography has been used in Armenian carpets was the dragons. As we know, all over historic Armenia, there are numerous, over 3,000 steles. In other words, it's called the dragon stones as guardians of the water. They all share the same iconography, but in a slightly different manner, in a slightly different depiction. Next video, please. In Karabakh, in Stepanakert, prior to the takeover by Azerbaijan, there was a workshop where over 300 weavers were producing since 1996, actually. And they were producing the modern styles of the tradition Armenian carpets. That workshop right now is in hand of Azerbaijan. During the war, in fact, one of the Azeri soldiers did a live video showing the entire workshop and saying, calling to Azerbaijani people, look what we have for you. We have a beautiful setup workshop for you to come and produce Azerbaijani rugs. And this was the workshop that was set by Armenian people. Next video, please. The symbolism in Armenian carpets, which has age-old meaning and it's embedded in the Armenian belief system, does not correspond with any of the Azerbaijani culture. In here, we see a sample of Armenian classic dragon rug housed in British Albert Museum, where we see the highlighted area, two dragons flanking a tree of life. Next to it, we see the dragon stone from Armenian highlands. Next slide, please. In here, we see the sun cross, also known as swastika, in the center of a Khanzoresk rug from Syunik region. Sacred Armenian symbols. In these two medallions, right in the center, the sun cross or the swastika in Armenian culture represents the four elements: earth, wind, water, and fire. It also represents the four directions. It also, four cardinal directions: east, west, north, and south. It also represents the 4 weeks of the moon cycle. The entire carpet is a complete narrative of the fundamental laws of life. The 8 dragons, highly stylized dragons, each representing the negative and positive portion of it, is surrounding the wheel of eternity, the sun cross, which is also called the wheel of eternity in Armenian culture, stating that for the seed or for any concept or for any egg to take life, it needs the 4 elements: earth, wind, water, and fire. When all those negative and positive sides of the 4 elements, which represented by negative and positive dragons, when come harmoniously in one place, coexist, the seed will sprout and become a tree of life, which will go into continuity. This is one sample, which a belief system that predates Christianity in Armenian culture. Next one, please. Next slide. In here, we see 4 tree of lives. We see a name inscribed on top in Armenian, name of the weaver, Mamyan Gohar. Gohar in this carpet is actually weaving her biography. There was a time when the weavers were not really literate, and they expressed their wisdom, their belief system, their blessings in patterns. In this case, Mamyan Gohar depicted and wove her 4 children. We see 2 boys and 2 girls. The colors red, white, and green in times were the symbol of marriage.
Dying, huh?
And this entire carpet is composed of those 3 colors, red, green, and white. In here, she says that she had 2 boys and 2 girls. All 4 of them are married, and the 4 medallions vertically are their individual families, individual homes. And also there are 4 family trees representing each child has his or her own family, and they are very well to do. They all are married. Next one, please. This is an early 18th century carpet which has a long inscription on it. As you see, the weaver, Gohar, her name, inscribed, I, Gohar, full of sin and weak of soul, with my nearly learned hands wove this rug. Whosoever reads, say a word of mercy for me in the year of 1149. 1149 is the old Armenian traditional date, calendar, which corresponds to 1701. In this carpet, we see 2 distinct symbolism. We see on the top medallion 2 flanking dragons facing outwards, protecting the tree of life. In the center, it's a radiating sun, which is a symbol of life, symbol of health and life. Eventually, this specific version of the dragon carpet was divided into several different patterns in Armenian culture. We have the sun rays, a separate medallion, and the dragons became a separate medallion. So this was a division or transition in Armenian carpets design development. Next one, please. In Karabakh, all those dragon carpets are known to be woven from Karabakh or Artsakh region. Historically, from one generation to another, this tradition was passed until today. Again, this loom, this photo depicts it's a picture of the Stepanakert factory, which no longer exists in Armenian hands now. Next one, please. Here is 100% silk rug, the only 100% silk rug that is known today, made in Shushi. In this silk carpet, we see a tree of life with two teenage girls sitting on each side. And then we have zoomorphic figures, animals, and so forth. Little later, we're going to be talking about this rug again. Next one, please. Oh, by the way, this silk carpet is dated 1886. In this slide, we see the pictures of the same girl that is depicted on the carpet. This photo was taken in 1886 by an English photographer who was visiting Artsakh to archive the Caucasian people that lived in Artsakh, and he took photos, and eventually those photos were published in a French book where it states and the origin of the photo, and the same date corresponds with the making of this carpet, 1886. Next photo, please. By the way, in the photo, the little girl in the photo is stated as Armenian. Armenian little girl and an elderly woman. Just samples of what kind of people who live in those regions. Next photo, please. Next slide. Here is another example of Artsakh carpet woven in Shushi. This is known as lampa Karabakh in the trade. Very distinct. The main medallion is a symbol of the sun, the radiating sun, and below it, we see two flanking birds. In this case, the birds or the zoomorphic figures resembling birds are symbol of fate. In Armenian, classic Armenian, all birds were referred to them as havk. Havk meaning flow or birds. So in fact, the birds symbolize the winged ones who take our prayers to the sky. They are the messengers of our faith to the heaven. And in Armenian language, the term havatk comes from the word hav or havk. Next video, please. Next slide. Here is a sample that is dated 1900s, made in Kedashem, one of the regions of historic Artsakh. Very distinct rug known in the market erroneously as red jagged band, which means nothing. It's just a descriptive nomenclature of those red bands, which is the negative, the foundation of the pattern. By naming it as red jagged band, that doesn't say anything about its origin. Yet Armenians call it Kedashen, where it was woven, where it's distinctly where it's from. Next one, please. We will talk about this a little later. Here is another version of the newer generation, I would say, of a dragon rug, where we see in the center the sunburst, and the upper and lower parts are the dragons. Jirapert was known, another region of historic Artsakh or Karabakh. Jirapert means water fortress. In market, this specific pattern is very famous, and erroneously it's called Chalabi, which means nothing, just the Azeri name that's given to it. But the original name was Jrapert, or sometimes we called it Artsakh, or in the market called Eagle Kazakh. Actually, it's the sunburst of Jrapert. In fact, there is a place where it's called Water Fortress, where between two rivers where they merge, there is a fortress. That fortress is called Jrapert, and that's the region where is this originated from. Next one, please. Next slide, please. On the next one, an Azerbaijani made carpet. This is all over the internet. They call it Cheliabi. I don't know what Cheliabi means. Cheliabi is the distorted version of Jrapert. And by changing the names, by misattributing them, the cultural heritage, they are distorting, and eventually they will be claiming it as their own. Next one, please. Here is another sample that we saw. We deciphered the medallion from Khanzoresk rug. This one on the left is inscribed Armenian female named Sophie, and the date 1894, from my private collection. The one on the right is called Meli Bailey, carpet, 19th century. I don't know what Meli Bailey means. And this is a new term in the carpet market. This is a new name that we are not familiar with, but they started renaming them. But the name Khanzoresk is widely known in the trade, which is very distinct to Khanzoresk village of Syunik region. Next one, please. Next slide. In here, we see the Kedashen rug, dated 1900. On the right, it is called Achma Yamma. Again, a totally new attribution for this pattern, which is sometimes called red jagged band in the trade. And these are right now, they are flooding the internet. Even in academia, they are spending millions of dollars to distort the names. Hence, in time, in future, maybe people will forget the original attributions. The next one, please. Next video. When in 44 days of war, luckily the carpet museums of Shushi, they were able to rescue all the carpets in the museum, and they were brought to Yerevan. This is a picture of the rescued carpets from Shushi Museum in Yerevan. Portion of it was rescued, and it's been on display. The future is endangered, not for Armenian cultural heritage, but for the sake of historic integrity. It is also the responsibility of the people of the world to guard the historical facts. I personally, not because I'm Armenian, because I should not tolerate any historical distortion or historic falsifications. There was a time where the Armenian highlands were marked in ancient maps as Armenian highlands. In modern days, you don't see Armenian highlands. You see Eastern Anatolia, which means Eastern East, which doesn't make sense. Nobody remembers now what is Armenian highlands, but they all know about Eastern Anatolia. Anatolia is a term, Greek term, meaning between two rivers. Eastern Anatolia means east. So calling it Eastern Anatolia, meaning Eastern East, which doesn't make sense. The same thing will happen, all the Armenian villages, by changing their names, changing their attributions into Azeri or Turkish names. That's erasing the history. That is not fair for the future generation. That's all for now. If anyone has any questions, Tatiana, I conclude my presentation. This is a fast forward, thousands of history in 30 minutes. That's all I could share with for now. I hope I covered enough.
Thank you very much, Hratch. I think that was a very wonderfully detailed and insightful, because even I learned new things about some of the history, some of the imagery as well used in it. The Armenian Institute is here to make Armenian culture and history a living experience. And thank you very much for presenting and being part of that. And we look forward to seeing you at future events. If you'd like to donate, please visit our website. And if you've got any feedback about the event, please do share it with us. We're always open to also new ideas if you have event ideas as well.
Again, let me plug in that Armenian Rock Society is also a nonprofit organization, and we function solely on people's donations. We have, our work is totally voluntarily, nobody gets paid. Thank you very much, and until next time.
Merci, thank you, merci. Thank you all for joining us.